Welcome to the Music and Videos Lab assignment. I need you to develop a Visual Basic application program that's used to input the number of songs and the number of videos sold. Songs that sell for 99 cents each and videos sell for $4.95 each. The store keeps a 20% commission for each song sold and a 25% commission for each video sold. The program is to display the total number of items, the gross sales, that's the total price, the amount of commission collected, and the net amount given to the sellers. The program also needs to reject invalid inputs and negative numbers. A button needs to be provided to clear the inputs and display, and a button needs to exit the program. First thing we need to do is to define the inputs and outputs. The inputs are going to be two text boxes, music sold and videos sold. 3 buttons, compute, clear, and exit. Once we know the inputs, then we can figure the outputs too. Total number of items sold, the total gross sales, total commission, and net to sellers. Once we know the inputs and the outputs, then we can go and figure out the processing. I need to input from the text boxes music and videos sold, compute the gross sales, compute the commission, compute the net to sellers. The clear button clears the inputs and the outputs. The exit button exits the program. Here's a list of steps I'll be using to complete the program. I'll create the form, add the label for the title, add a group box for music and videos sold, and then put labels and text boxes in the group boxes to be used as inputs. I'll add labels used for outputs, add buttons for compute, clear, and exit, set the form's accept and escape buttons, change the background color to make it look better, write the code, title block and constants. Let's create the project. I want a new project, File, New Project. Make sure it says Visual Basic and Windows Forms Application. I'm going to call my project Music and Videos. Make sure there's no spaces. Select your working directory and say OK. First thing I want to do is to set the text property for the form to say Music and Videos. Now I can have a space because it's a text property. I want to make sure I have a Properties window showing and the toolbox. View, Toolbox. First thing I'll put on the form is my title. I'll use a label and say Dan's Online Store. I'll set the title font to 16-point bold. Make sure the label is selected. Font, bring up the font dialog box and say 16, size, and bold. Oh, it doesn't quite fit, so I need to expand my form out a little bit. I'll use a group box to hold the inputs and the outputs. On containers, if containers is closed, then make sure it's open. Select group box. The text for the group box, I want to say music and videos using an ampersand. I have to use a double ampersand in order to get one to show up. That's because the ampersand is used as a control character to select hotkeys. So to get one ampersand, you have to do ampersand, ampersand. I'll use a label and a text box for my inputs. First thing I'll do is put a label on the form, set the text property to music, and then put a text box right next to it so I can do the user input. I'm going to be lazy. I'll select these two controls, say copy, paste, deselect both of those. For the label, put in videos. Now I want 4 labels for my output. First label, I'll say item sold. The text property is going to be item sold. Copy, paste, The next label will be gross sales. And I've run out of room. Expand both the form and the group box. Copy paste, commission. Copy paste, net to sellers. And if I've run out of room again, I can just expand the group box. I need to set the properties for all of these. The group box name, the name property for the group box I'll call GRP Music and Videos, no spaces. Call this one LBL Music. The text box TXT Music. Next label LBL Videos. Next text box TXT Videos. Next label LBL Items Sold. The next label LBL Gross Sales. The next label LBL Commission. The next label LBL Net to Sellers. Now I can put in my buttons. I have a button for compute. The name is BTN Compute. For the text property, I want to say ampersand compute. That way I can have a hotkey for Alt-C, which will make the compute button work. Copy paste. The text property for the next one, I'm going to say, this is for my clear, capital C, ampersand LEAR. That way Alt-L will do the clear. Copy paste. The text property is going to be capital E ampersand XIT. So Alt X is going to do the exit. Expand my form. Make sure I give names to these guys also. BTN Compute, good. Uh-oh. BTN Clear and BTN Exit. Two more things I want to do before entering the code. I want to set the Accept button and the Cancel button. Make sure that the form is selected, then find the Accept button. Set that to BTN Compute. That way, when somebody presses the Enter key, it's going to activate the code for the Compute button. Scroll the properties down for the form. Find the Cancel button. Set this to BTN Clear. That way, when somebody presses the Escape key, it's going to activate the code for the Clear button. I also want to change the background. It's very difficult to read when everything is gray. Select the form on back color, set it to something that looks good. I'm going to pick saddle brown. And then I want to change the background for the group box. Make that somewhat lighter. Oh, how about sandy brown? There, those look pretty cool. Double-click the Compute button, and this will bring up your code window. Up above where it says Private Sub, put in the title block. I have Music and Videos, BB displays total sales commission. I can't see everything, so I'm going to click the push pen for both the toolbox and the properties. That way I have lots of room for my code. Put in the title block that includes the name of the program, version, the date, the programmer, the class, listing inputs and outputs. I have an empty area right in here where I can put in the code for the compute button. Outside of any subroutine, put in the constants. That way, any of the subroutines below this can see the constants. This is also a good place to put the constants because that way when anybody is looking to change any of the constants or see what they are, they're right there at the top of the program. I have constants defined for the price of the music, the commission for the music, which is 0.2D. That's 20%. Notice there's a little comment right here that has single quote space 20%. That way if somebody's wondering what 0.2D stands for, they'll know it's 20%. I also have the price for the video price defined as 4.95D, it's a decimal constant, and the video commission percent, which is 0.25D. Also a comment there that says 25%. Now I can go ahead and put in the code for the compute button. The first thing I want to do inside my BTN compute subroutine is declare all the variables that I'm going to be using. Here they are. I need a variable for the number of music items sold. I'm going to declare this as an integer. Why an integer? Well, an integer is a whole number. I'm not going to sell half of a music or 3/4 of a music. It's always going to be a whole item. As far as the gross sales for music, well, that's a decimal because this is going to be a dollar amount, how much money is coming in. Also, music commission. This is how much money I'm going to be making off of the sales. Do the same thing for videos. Videos sold is an integer because I'm not going to sell half of a video. It's a whole number. And the gross sales and the commission, this is going to be decimal because I want it to be in dollars. I also have something getting ready to do my output. This is going to be the items sold, which is the total of the music and the videos. The gross sales, this is a combination of music and videos, and also the commission, which will be the combination of the music and the videos, and the net to the sellers, how much money they're making after I take my commission. Look at all of those variables that have green squiggly lines underneath. That means that this is an unused local variable. These variables have been declared, but they have never been used. Well, hopefully all of them will be used when I do the input process output. But when I'm done, I should go back and make sure that they're all used. Maybe I misspelled something, or maybe I just created a variable I don't use, and I can actually get rid of it without affecting the program. We have already done the constants and the variables. Now it's time to put in the code for the input process output. Want to see how fast I can get it done? Ding! Wow! First thing I have is music sold equals cint, and then in parentheses txtmusic.text. So I'm going to take the data from the text property of the text box txtmusic, convert it into an integer. I'm using an integer for music sold because, again, I'm not going to sell half of a music. I'm going to do the same thing for the videos sold. I've got the data now. I've done my inputs. Time to do the process. Process. Music gross sales is going to be the amount of money for the music. That's going to be the number of music items sold times the price of the music, which is what? It's defined up in the constants as 0.99, 99 cents. My commission is going to be the total gross sales times the commission percent, which was defined as a constant as 20% or 0.2D. Same thing for video. Okay, do some more math here. The number of items sold, that's going to be how many items of music and how many videos I sold. The total gross sales is going to be the music gross sales plus my video gross sales. That's how much money came in for both music and videos. The commission is going to be how much commission I made from music, how much commission I made from the videos, And the net to the sellers is the gross sales minus the amount that I am keeping for commission. Time to output the results. Now we can put stuff into those 4 labels. Remember, I'm using a label for items sold, gross sales, commission, and net to sellers. So for the items sold, this is a label, and then it will show up on my form. I'll start off with a string that says items sold, colon, space, and then the quote. I'll put a space after the colon, so that way the numbers don't run right up against that colon. I'll just make it look nice. The ampersand right here, that's the concatenation character used by Visual Basic that adds one string onto the end of another string. So I have item sold, colon, space, and then item sold dot to string. So that's going to take the integer, convert it into a string, and then add it onto the text that says item sold. Similar for LBL gross sales, I'm going to put stuff in the text property of the label, LBL gross sales. It's going to say gross sales, colon, space, and then I'll concatenate, add one string onto the other. Gross sales dot to string, but this time I'm going to have a special modifier for the 2 strings. I have a quote, and then I'll have a C that says currency. For the United States, it's going to put in a $sign and use 2 decimal places. The commission and the net to sellers, well, hey, it's just like the LBL gross sales. Pretty cool? Well, the only code to input now is for the clear and exit buttons. Scroll up. Uh-oh. This time it's not a green underline, but it's blue. It looks like I have something that wasn't typed right. It says TXT is not a member of system.windows.forms.textbox. Oh, it's supposed to be TEXT. Good, it went away. Now it's time to actually test the program. I'm going to go up and click the start. I'll put in 8 music items and 3 videos, and then click the compute button. It says I sold 11 items, gross sales $22.72, commission $5.30. That was correct because it was rounded up. And net to sellers $17.47. Yes! Well, clear. I'm just going to sell like 15 music items. Compute. Oh no. Unhandled exception of type system invalid cast exception occurred. Oh, it says additional information conversion from string, quote, quote, that's an empty string to integer is not valid. Break. And I can see right here, it even it says the next statement here. So it failed on videos sold equals CN. It couldn't convert the empty field for text into an integer. You know what? It's good enough. I'm just going to go ahead and submit the program the way it is. Click. Hello, I am Mr. L from Software Quality Assurance. I've looked over your program and found a problem. The program crashes if either the text boxes used for input are left empty. It also crashes if either the text boxes has non-numeric data. We can just tell everyone who uses the program to make sure they put some numeric data in the text boxes. We can document this as a security feature so that untrained people won't be able to use the program. Bad idea. Very bad. Bad, Dan. Bad, Dan. You need to make the program user-friendly. I can fix it. I know what to do. I can implement exception handling with the try-catch blocks. I'll be right back. Bye. That was Mr. Elf from Software Quality Assurance. He likes to test a program and keep testing until he can find something wrong or he finally gives up, and then he'll pass the program. Sometimes he's a pain in the rear, but because of all of his expert testing, when we ship something out the door, it has very, very few problems. Maybe you've heard of Elf on the Shelf. Well, don't tell him. We call him Elf on the Mouse. If he finds out, he might find more things wrong with my program. Well, here I go. I'm going to go fix the one he found. I wonder what he meant by non-numeric data. Well, I'm going to try this again with 8 and 3. Compute. That comes out okay. Well, how about if I, instead of the number 3, I spell it out? That looks like good English to me. Compute. Oh, there we go. Additional information. Conversion from string THREE to type integer is not valid. Okay. Makes sense. There it is. It says the error is right there on converting txt videos.text, which I had THREE. You know what? I can solve both problems with an empty text box and non-numeric data. And I'll put everything between my input, the process, and the output. I'm going to wrap that entire set of code inside of a try-catch block. Try. And then down at the bottom, I'll say catch. And I'll put in a message box here. Message box.show. Input data must be numeric. And end try. Let's see if this works. Start the program again. I'll put in 3. And I'll type in 7. Oh, there we go. I got a message box that says the input data must be numeric. How about if I leave that blank? Compute, input data must be numeric. Okay, cool. Now turn it back into Mr. Elf and see what he says now. Submit. He has to pass it this time. This is Mr. Elf from Software Quality Assurance. You hung up on me before I was done talking. I understand that you have been calling me Mr. Elf on the Mouse. This is not acceptable. You do not get to make up names for me. I am the SQA person. You will regret this. From now on, I will be known as Mr. Elf the Leprechaun. By the way, I found another problem with your program. You shouldn't have hung up on me so fast. When a text box is empty, treat it as if the data was entered was a 0 instead of displaying an error. Okay, I'll fix it. By the way, you misspelled leprechaun. Did you see that? I did a screen capture. Leprechaun. Leprechaun. I'll send Mr. Elf an email with the correct spelling of leprechaun. That way, nobody will ever make fun of him. Aren't I a nice guy? This doesn't look too bad. I'll just use an if-then-else on both of the text boxes. If the contents of the text property is equal to string empty, then I'll set the value to a 0. Else, I get the value from the text box. That solves it. Let's see what I can do. First thing, clear up some room on the screen. First thing, clear up some room on the screen here. Found a spot here where I have my inputs. I guess the first thing I should do is put a comment here and put input music and videos. I can put my if statement here. If txt music.text equals string empty, 0. Else, I'll read the data from the text box. I need to do the same thing for the videos. If txt videos.text equals string.empty, then videos sold equals 0. Else, I'll just move this guy up and I'll say videos sold equals, and I'll get the data from the text box. Click resubmit. It's got to prove it this time. Values. Well, you got that one fixed, but you didn't fully implement the project as listed in the specification. It clearly states the program needs to reject negative inputs. It would be nice if you could let me know all the problems at once instead of feeding them to me one at a time. It would be nice if you didn't hang up on me before I was done talking. Sorry, it won't happen again. I'll fix the problem. Bye. There's a part of the try, throw, catch block that I haven't really talked too much about. That's the throw. Inside the try block, if an error is detected, for example, by a conversion error, then the error is thrown within the try block and it is caught by the catch block. The detection for those errors is automatically part of Visual Basic. But what happens if we have something where we want to throw an error ourselves? We can just use the word throw, and then if that happens, code will automatically jump down to the catch, and then the rest of the code within the try block will not be executed. I am going to throw an error if one of the input values is less than 0. Then I don't have to worry about a whole bunch of other processing because I already have a catch block. Well, here it is. After I input my data values, I'm going to say if music sold is less than 0 or video sold is less than 0, then throw new exception. One of the things I need to do now is go down and change my message down here at the bottom inside the catch. Instead of just saying input data must be numeric, I'm going to say input data must be numeric and non-negative. Let's try that one out. Music is 5. Videos is -2. Aha, input data must be numeric and non-negative. I think Mr. Alpha is going to have to approve this one. Everything should be covered now. Yes! It passed! Now all I need to do is finish the documentation, which will be my lab report, submit it, and I can go back to playing Martian Invaders versus the Dragon of Scranton. So, what did I learn from this? Well, I need to make sure that I test my program thoroughly. I have to make program user-friendly, and I have to do some defensive programming in case something, maybe the users put something in that I wasn't expecting. I need also to make sure I look very closely at the spec and maybe even check off each part of it to make sure that it was covered. The other thing is I need to appreciate the people who are supporting me. Not only in payroll or my boss or human relations, but maybe it's the people who are running the lab, or it could be the system administrators who are giving me network access. All of these people I should be nice and polite to because they can either help make my life easy or they could help make it more difficult. They're working too for the same thing, and they deserve our respect. So, It is time to start programming. Tap those keys, wiggle that mouse, code the program, test it, and document it, submit it, and have a wonderful day.